When you think of whammy bar usage and Yngwie, you might think of these kind of Ritchie Blackmore style antics. Or maybe some Eddie Van Halen style squeals. But what I mostly want to cover here is that subtle Alan Holdsworth style whammy usage that appeared on Yngwie's early albums. What we've got there are some whammy bar dips, whammy vibrato, as well as some left-hand hammer-ons and pull-offs. You'll hear this kind of stuff in the outro solo to Black Star, the post solo in Krina Kuri from the Alcatraz No Parole album, and even Yngwie's own version of In the Dead of Night, which of course featured Alan Holdsworth on guitar. Let's build a repertoire of ideas beginning with whammy dips. This is a small scoop of the bar on a note that's already ringing. It basically allows us to re-articulate that note by going slightly below pitch and back up. It's just a touch and release of the bar, and it's up to you how low you want it to go. Next, we'll add some whammy vibrato to a sustaining B note, and that's going to sound a little bit different to finger vibrato because, like bending vibrato, it will go below the pitch of the note and back up, or we can go on either sides of the note. The other type of dip we can do with a bar is called a pre-dip. The downward motion of the whammy bar actually takes place before we articulate the note. Then when we bring it back up, you're hearing the note come from below up to pitch. So the way to copy what I just did then is dip the bar, pick the note, and then let the bar come back up. The second time I did the dip was on the last D note on the 15th fret. So there I pressed the bar coming out of the previous note, then hammer, and then raise the pitch. You can also see I used some picking hand taps on the 15th and 17th frets. To get a bit more of that Alan Holdsworth flavour, I can use just my fretting hand and apply some subtle whammy vibrato in between each of the dips. That brings me back to the first example I did in the video. In this one I used pre-dips, vibrato and slurs. Only the first note is picked, and when I go to the B string it's done with a hammer-on from nowhere. We'll get more into that in the legato chapter later on. The idea of Alan Holdsworth's approach was to kind of imitate horn players. He always envisioned himself as a saxophonist rather than a guitar player, but of course being stuck with the guitar as a young guy, he developed that as much as he could and just tried to incorporate that horn influence on his melodic lines. So try imitating that horn approach with whammy bar dips, pre-dips, vibrato in your own way and see what kind of horn-like effect you can create. Here's one more example in E minor before I leave you to improvise over the track from this section. This phrasing is kind of unorthodox, which is another aspect I'll get into with our legato chapter. And here it is slow, so you can take in each element I'm bringing to the table, see if you can internalize that sound in your ears and then recreate it in your licks. If you haven't set up your bridge for whammy work yet, try to get a bit of a float happening so that it's possible to go down and up with the whammy bar. As you might have noticed, I've actually changed bridge on this guitar since we began the course. I've switched over to a Vega tremolo, so instead of being the 6-string, traditional strap bridge that moves from the pivot of the screws, this actually has a base plate that is screwed down and then a floating part that occupies the cavity that was already there. So there's no drilling, no filling, nothing like that. It just retrofits into that slot. So if you're into strats, but you want something that almost has a Floyd Rose functionality, check out the Vega Trems.